So, I was going to make a June wrap-up video, and then I read literally one book in June. And so we're not going to do that because that would be pointless. But since I am new to BookTube and I have not shown any of the books that I've read the entire year, I thought it would be good to do a mid-year wrap-up kind of thing. So I decided that we are going to do today a tier list of all of the books that I've read. This tier list thing has been popular on YouTube for a while now. People have been doing it for all sorts of things. I've even seen it on the book community for various subjects, but we are going to do the books I read and ranking them. So there is no specific criteria that I rate my books with. Even on Goodreads, I just kind of do what my heart feels like with my rating. So if it feels like a 5-star, I rate it a 5-star. If it feels like a 1-star, I rate it a 1-star. And that is the extent of my rating system. So here is my tier list for this video. We have the S tier, which is Chef's Kiss for the favorite books that I've read. The next one is I Love. The next one is I Finished. So not amazing, not terrible, just, yeah, it was pretty good. The next one is Crusty, so if it was less than average, it's a little bit crusty. And then we have Why. Why does this book exist? Why? So now we are going to get into ranking them. So hopefully I have all the books that I've read here. If not, follow me on Goodreads. We are going to start with the first book I read this year, which is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. So a lot of people like this book. Now, I am not the kind of person who personally loves the self-care or the self-help genre of reading. A lot of it just seems kind of self-explanatory and stupid and like, yeah, I know that I should not be depressed, but here I am. This book was really difficult for me to get through, and it was the first book I read. And I just thought it was pointless and I didn't learn anything from it. So it's like, yeah, I should not care about things, but I do. So yeah, sorry people who like this book. I know this book is very popular and this is a very controversial opinion, but I rated it 1-star in Goodreads and I stand by my decision. The next book I read, we are going to put this one, Henry Kissinger, World Order. So this is a book about geopolitics. I'm very interested in geography and geopolitics and political science. And I thought this one was interesting. It definitely introduced me to some concepts that I was not familiar with before, but it was very boring, and I thought that the author was not able to criticize any modern US presidents like at all. So I was like, well, do you have opinions? It was also very, I thought it was very like Eurocentric. If you're gonna write a book about the world, it should be from a not Eurocentric perspective, but who am I? I don't know. So yeah, so I finished. Yeah, I think I rated it 2 stars on Goodreads, but I don't know. Let's go with this one that is next, Things Fall Apart by, I'm going to butcher this name, Chinua Achebe. Probably saying that wrong still, but I'm really sorry. I'm probably going to butcher everyone's name on this. So, Things Fall Apart is the first book in a trilogy in the modern African literature. I thought it was really good. I never read this in high school. Apparently it's like on high school reading. I love books where the author does an amazing job of describing like just the environment that the characters live in, and for this one it was so easy for me to visualize like the landscape and the environment that this character lived in. So for me it was a 5-star. I also thought it was interesting. It touched on issues like colonialism and missionaries and kind of some of the bad stuff that they did on the African continent and perpetuating colonialism through religion and interesting things like that. Really good. I really liked it. So I thought it was great. 5 stars. Chef's kiss. Would recommend to everyone. To move on. Tom Clancy, Clear and Present Danger. I love political thrillers. It is one of my favorite genres. I like the illusion that politicians care about their citizens. We know that that's not a reality. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna get political. However, this one, I listened to it as an audiobook. It was like a 30-hour long audiobook. And it was not thrilling. It was a political thriller, but it was not thrilling. So I'm going to put this in crusty because it was kind of crusty. This one, Red Vengeance by Margaret Stohl. I own this one. It is right there. It's actually the sequel, which I did not know when I got it discount at Barnes & Noble's. It is actually the second book in a series about Marvel Black Widow, written by Margaret Stohl. But I thought it was really fun. It was kind of like a middle grade to young adult book. So not the usual age range for me personally in books that I like to read. But I thought it was really fun. It was super fast, and I love Black Widow, so it was good. I'm going to put it in the I finished category because I didn't finish it, but I actually did like it. Let's go next to Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I really like this one. This one was very popular, and I thought it was great. It lightly touched on subjects such as racism in her community, but it's not to the level where it's like a main part of the book. So if you think that it's going to be like To Kill a Mockingbird or something, you're going to be disappointed. But I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Let's go on to Othello by Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare, and I really like this one. I don't really remember what I liked about it at this point. Moving on next to The Ensemble by Aja Gabel. Chef's Kiss. This is one of my favorite books of 2020. I read this on the plane to when I was visiting my brother in Arizona. It is a book about 4 musicians and kind of them coming of age into the adulthood in the music world and them becoming professional musicians and stuff like that. And it is very character driven. So if you don't like character driven books, you're not going to like this because there's not a lot of plot. But it's focused on these 4 characters, how they experience things differently in the music world, how they experience family and career and things like that. And I thought that many of the sentiments that the characters shared were similar to things that I felt as a real musician, not a character musician. So I thought it was really good, and I would recommend it to everyone. And also the cover is beautiful. Let's go on to Romanov. This one I really like. This is the first book in a while where I stayed up until like 3 a.m. to finish it. I thought it was really cute. It was really light, really easy to read, and I just thought it was great. So if you like books about loosely based on like Russian history, I would recommend. Next one we'll do is Purpose and Practice by Rachel Lee Hall. She is a professional harpist, and she wrote this book about practicing and finding your purpose in practice. So some of the things are kind of self-explanatory towards musicians, but I think it's a good resource just to have if you ever feel unmotivated in your practice. So I'll put it in the I love category because I did love it. She also played beautiful harp music on Instagram. Dance of Thieves by Mary Pearson. So, Dance of Thieves was a great YA fantasy book. I am not huge on the fantasy genre, but I really liked this one, and I thought that the relationship between the 2 main characters, it was kind of like an enemies to lovers sort of thing, and that's one of my favorite tropes, or friends to lovers. I love anything to lovers, basically. So I thought it was really fun. How to Listen to Jazz by Ted Goya, or Joya? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. This one was a book about kind of the structure of jazz and how a jazz newbie, whether you're from the classical music perspective, like myself, or you're from like a non-music non-musician perspective. I think it's a good resource for either category. It briefly goes through the history of jazz, talks about some of the major jazz icons such as Herbie Hancock or Miles Davis or any of those people, and kind of some of the instruments, some of the structures. I thought it was really interesting, and I would recommend if you like jazz. Let's go on to Spy School by, I don't even know. This one is a puzzle book about memory. It has all sorts of interesting memory games, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Let's continue to C.S. Lewis Mere Christianity. This is also going to be in the I finished. This is on the lower end of I finished because I basically just finished it because a friend recommended it to me, and I didn't want to offend her, but I was very bored. Very wordy book, and I kind of wish that he just kind of streamlined his talking. So I thought it was kind of boring. Can I say, that's a very popular book. Can I say that about this book? Oh well. Moving on. Penelope Lively, Purple Swamp Hen. This one I came across in a bookstore, and I took a picture of it because I didn't want to buy it then, but I started reading it in quarantine. It is a set of short stories all about relationships, and I thought it was amazing. I thought it was really cool, and I am like kind of a newbie to short stories, but I thought this one was really interesting. All sorts of different kinds of relationships in this one, so if you liked relationships, would recommend this book. Moving on to The 500 by Matthew Quirk. Okay. Oh, I don't know where to put this one. I'm going to put it in Y. So, last year read, this is another political thriller. I read The Night Agent by Matthew Quirk, the same author. And I had issues with the characters because they were so poorly written. It was like, we have this Mary Sue female character, but she's like trying to be like a strong woman because we don't want to be sexist, do we? So she is like immediately good at everything, even though she has zero training whatsoever. And then we have this like knight in shining armor male character who just magically survives anything and always, you know, just happens to succeed at everything he does. And it was just like, these characters, so annoying. The thing that I have with this author, though, and it was the same issues with The 500, which I read this year. The same issues were present in this book, and I keep giving him a second chance because the plot is so interesting to me. This one was about like a consulting firm, and there's like this consultant, and then he finds out that the main consultant is like, I don't know, pulling like a Frank Underwood and trying to like do all these things to kind of sabotage the democracy of the United States. So the plot was really interesting, and I did enjoy listening to it on audiobook, but the characters sucked. So I'm going to put it in Y because I don't know why I keep giving this author a second chance. Moving on before I get too mad. Nocturna by Maya Montaigne. So I put this in I love because I love this book. I thought the magic system was really interesting in this one. It had rules, which I love, and I thought it was great. Well, clearly I didn't put in Chef's Kiss, so not 10 out of 10, but like 9.75 out of 10. I don't know. Just my favorite books in Chef's Kiss. I don't know, maybe I should move How to Listen to Jazz down because it wasn't my favorite book. We'll move that down to I love. Okay. Moving on, The Natural History of the Piano by Stuart Isaacoff. I'm putting this in Chef's Kiss because if you are a pianist, you need to read this book. This is like one of the most comprehensive accounts of the history of the piano as an instrument that I have ever read. It included all sorts of different genres that the piano has gone through. It went through all the different time periods of classical music, and it also introduced many ragtime and jazz artists, which I think is super important for even classical musicians to know, because that kind of music exists, and it's a very valid part of the music community. You can't, I don't know, take a look at major piano pieces like a lot of Barber or like Copland without acknowledging that many of those themes came from black artists, and especially those black artists in like blues or jazz or anything like that. So I think that it's super important to acknowledge where those white composers took some of their inspiration from. I think that it's really fascinating, and it's very important for especially pianists to read. So, The Tiger at Midnight. I don't want to put it in I finished because I feel like it was better than, maybe I'll change the name of I finished. I'm going to put this one as nice because these books are nice. I put Tiger at Midnight in the nice category. I really like this one. Not quite as much as I liked The Dance of Thieves or Nocturna. I don't know why even. I just, I don't know, maybe I do like it as much. I'm gonna put it at the same level. I didn't like the relationships as much in this one, but I did really like the plot, and I liked kind of the inclusion of all sorts of different kind of like characters and how they make decisions based on their own experiences and like the politics of their situation. So I thought that it was really good. Oh god. Okay, First Life by Jenna Showalter. This is probably one of the worst books I've ever read. This one, a lot of these books I do not agree with the average Goodreads rating. This one is rated like 3.75 on Goodreads, and I'm like, how? This is one of the stupidest books I've ever read. I have an entire rant review filmed on this, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but this book sucks. I would not recommend it to anyone except for maybe a 11-year-old who is obsessed with sexual innuendo. Next one is Unworthy by Natalie Rufus. I'm putting this in crusty because no. Well, it wasn't as bad as First Life. Unworthy is marketed as self-help. It's supposed to be about self-love and self-acceptance. It was really just like very general things that like I think most people probably know. And also, it almost seemed more like a memoir about her own mother's experience with eating disorders and self-image and things like that, which is totally valid. I just wish that it would have kind of focused on either self-help or the memoir aspect of it and not included the two. It was a little bit crusty. Next, Twyla Tharp, The Creative Habit. I read this for a class, but I recommend it to any creatives. It is about building routine and habit to promote creativity and not get caught in kind of the slump of just creating whenever inspiration strikes. So I thought it was really good. Next we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I put this in the I love category, not in Chef's Kiss, even though I am kind of a Leigh Bardugo stan. It just took me forever to read it. Like, this is the one book that I read in June. It just took me a really time. I mean, it's a pretty long book, but it just took me a really long time to get through it. Although, whenever I was reading it, I was really enjoying myself. So it's kind of like hard to say, was it good or not? But if you have time for a very slow book, I would recommend you pick it up. It is about a girl who has kind of these magic powers, and she goes to Yale where there are all these different like secret societies and they have all these different magical powers, and it's very much like magic, witchy vibes, the occult, stuff like that, and I thought it was really cool. I really liked the magic. I really liked the environment of like Ivy League, secret society kind of thing. It was very interesting to me as someone who has never even stepped foot near an Ivy League student, much less the school, much less getting into it.
Because I'm dumb.
And I was slow, but I did like it. So, yeah. So the last two are ones that I'm currently reading, so I thought I might just put them in because I will probably be finished with them by the time this video goes out. But they are, first of all, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I don't want to like judge it before I've read it, but I'm probably going to put this in crusty because it is very predictable. And I was hoping that it would not be predictable. I know that this book has been out forever and I have gotten some of it spoiled, but I thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh, we don't know who, you know, did the thing, but I definitely know who did the thing. So that is kind of like, you know, the one thing that you want in a thriller is the unpredictableness, and the kind of suspense aspect, and it is just non-existent in this book for me personally. So I am putting it in Krusty. I'm thirsty. The last one is Pet by Ekweki Emezi. They are a non-binary author. I'm reading this one for Pride Month. I think that this is probably one of the best books that I've read all year, maybe. It is just wonderful. It is short, which I like short books. I don't like long books. But it is only like 200 pages, but it is so amazing. It has such good, what's the right word? Allegory. And it also has some of the most beautiful writing that like I've ever read. So I think that it is amazing. And also the main character is trans, so it's just great to see that representation in books, and I think that is fantastic. So I'm putting Pet in Chef's Kiss because Chef's Kiss, it is just an amazing book, and I would recommend everyone to read it. So that is the end of my tier list of the books that I've read so far in 2020. If you've gotten this far in the video and my hot mess of recording in my room with my weird lighting, please hit the like and subscribe button so that you can see more of my videos, and let me know in the comments what your favorite book of 2020 has been so far, and also let me know what your most anticipated read of 2020 going forward is. For me, it is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, because I have heard so many good things about it on Bookstagram, and people are really hyping it up, so I hope that it's good. I've heard that it is amazing. The cover is gorgeous. I want to buy it for the cover. So, let me know those two things, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!